Imagine a grand hall, bathed in golden candlelight. The scent of roasting meats mingled with the aroma of spiced wine, thick and intoxicating. Laughter echoed off marble walls, clinking goblets punctuating toasts to power, wealth, and family legacy. Nobles dressed in the finest silks and velvets glided with elegance, unaware that every bite, every sip, could carry a hidden doom. This was Renaissance Italy, a world of dazzling beauty and ruthless ambition, and at its center stood the Borgia family. Rodrigo Borgia, destined to become Pope Alexander VI, was a man whose ambition knew no bounds. His children, Cesare, Lucrezia, and Juan, would inherit both his brilliance and his penchant for intrigue. By 1492, Rodrigo's ascent to the papacy marked the apex of Borgia influence, a time when sacred duty and ruthless political maneuvering blurred into one. But the Borgias were more than diplomats and soldiers. They were rumored masters of poison, wielding it with an elegance that mirrored the luxurious silk draped across their banquet tables. In Italy's fragmented city-states, Florence, Milan, Venice, and the Papal States, power was precarious, alliances fragile, and betrayal constant. The Borgias navigated this landscape with charm, intimidation, and a chilling cold calculation. Cesare Borgia, once groomed for a life in the church, abandoned ecclesiastical ambitions in favor of military and political power. Stories of his strategic brilliance are inseparable from tales of poisoned feasts, where allies and rivals alike might unknowingly sip wine or sample delicacies laced with lethal toxins. Lucrezia, celebrated for her beauty and intelligence, moved through politically advantageous marriages, her name entwined in whispers of intrigue, whether by choice or necessity. Even Juan, the youngest, watched, learned, and absorbed lessons in diplomacy, fear, and survival. Contemporary chroniclers like Johann Burchard recounted incidents where nobles dined in papal halls only to vanish shortly after. Whether truth, rumor, or propaganda, these tales of invisible death fueled the legend of the Borgias. Drinks left no taste, meals were carefully timed, and every act allowed plausible deniability. Fear became as much a tool as armies or wealth, and the mere possibility of poison ensured loyalty in a world where trust was rare. The duality of the Borgias was mesmerizing. Outwardly, they were patrons of the arts, devout Catholics, and figures of refinement. Inwardly, they were a machine of calculated terror, each family member a cog in a system designed to maintain dominance. Their poisoned banquets were the apex of this duality, glittering displays of luxury masking silent threats, where laughter could give way to death within hours. Even today, the Borgia name evokes images of golden goblets and shadowed smiles. To dine with them was to walk a line between indulgence and peril, a world where ambition eclipsed morality, and every carefully orchestrated feast could be the stage for silent assassination. But as the candles flickered and the musicians played, a single poisoned goblet could change the course of life and history, leaving the question, who would survive the night and who would vanish into legend? Cesare Borgia moved through the world with the poise of a prince and the cunning of a predator. Once destined for the church, he abandoned the ecclesiastical path, trading the altar for armies and sermons for schemes. Yet even as a soldier and diplomat, his greatest weapon was not the blade he wielded on the battlefield, but the subtle, invisible art of poison. His banquets were masterpieces of strategy and terror. Guests arrived dressed in the height of Renaissance fashion, laughter spilling across marble halls, unaware that their very presence had been calculated. Cesare's seating arrangements were precise. Allies, potential threats, and uncertain rivals were placed where a single misstep could be fatal. Dishes and goblets, appearing ordinary, carried hidden hazards: arsenic, belladonna, or the mysterious powders provided by apothecaries, all chosen for their ability to act quietly, invisibly, lethally. Chroniclers and rumor alike recounted incidents where prominent nobles fell ill during these gatherings, some dying within hours, others disappearing entirely, leaving only whispered speculation. One account tells of a wine cup, carefully switched during a toast, sending a rival into agonizing convulsions while the room remained in cheerful celebration. Cesare watched, impassive, his eyes calculating, as the invisible threads of power tightened around his enemies. Yet Cesare's genius lay not only in the mechanics of murder, but in its psychological impact. The mere knowledge, or even rumor, that any dish could contain death instilled fear. Alliances were tested, conversations measured, gestures analyzed. Every noble in his hall became a chess piece, forced to play by his rules. The threat of poison was more effective than armies in some cases. It dictated behavior, enforced loyalty, and spread an invisible, inescapable shadow over the politics of the Papal States. Lucrezia's presence enhanced Cesare's mastery of perception. Her beauty and intelligence were tools as sharp as any blade. Tales suggest she may have been complicit in some schemes, whether delivering a poisoned cup with delicate grace or simply ensuring that guests remained under scrutiny. Even if she acted passively, her very reputation amplified fear. To dine in the Borgia's presence was to understand that loyalty was mandatory and betrayal invisible but deadly. Cesare also understood that appearances mattered. His banquets were opulent, full of music, laughter, and extravagance, the trappings of noble life. The spectacle served two purposes: to entice and to lull. Guests were distracted by candles, silks, roasted meats, and sweet pastries, unaware of the silent danger threading through the evening. The elegance of the environment mirrored the sophistication of the act itself. Murder became almost a performance, its perfection measured by subtlety rather than spectacle. Historical accounts hint at the meticulous planning that accompanied each gathering. Wine glasses might be switched, spices carefully measured, desserts infused with lethal compounds, and only the intended victim would suffer. Others might taste the same dishes without harm, reinforcing the uncertainty that made fear so powerful. Cesare's mastery of control extended beyond mere survival. It molded perception, creating an aura of omnipotence. The consequences of such cunning were immediate and lasting. Rivals learned to hesitate, allies were coerced into compliance, and the Borgia name became synonymous with lethal sophistication. The threat of invisible power created a psychological battlefield where men and women negotiated not only with words and alliances, but with careful calculation of every sip and bite. Yet despite the fear Cesare inspired, rumors swirled about the extent of his cruelty. Chroniclers, propagandists, and rivals amplified stories of poison and sudden deaths, ensuring that the legend grew beyond the verifiable events. Some deaths were documented, others existed only in whispers. But Cesare understood the value of ambiguity. The more uncertain the threat, the more powerful it became. It was a lesson in control. Perception could be as potent as reality. Cesare's lethal elegance extended into every aspect of Borgia power. Military campaigns, political negotiations, and familial alliances were informed by the same precision that guided his banquets. Fear was currency, manipulation, art, murder, if necessary, invisible. To witness him at work, was to see strategy elevated to its darkest heights, a man capable of weaving terror into the very fabric of social life, ensuring dominance without overt confrontation. Even as centuries have passed, the stories of Cesare's poisoned feasts endure, a chilling testament to the combination of intellect, ruthlessness, and theatrical precision. Each banquet was both a social gathering and a demonstration of invisible supremacy, a reminder that in Renaissance Italy, death could arrive elegantly, silently, and without warning. And yet, in the shadow of Cesare's brilliance, another figure quietly wielded her own influence, her presence at the family's tables enhancing the aura of danger and fascination. Lucrezia Borgia, poised between compliance and ambition, beauty and menace, would soon reveal that the art of poison was as much about reputation as it was about reality. Her role in the family's lethal theater, both mysterious and essential. The hall was alive with music, candles flickering against gilded walls, glasses raised, laughter echoing. Somewhere, unseen and undetected, danger waited to strike. The question remained, who would survive the evening, and who would vanish into the shadows of Borgia legend? Lucrezia Borgia moved through the corridors of power like a shadow, cloaked in silk. Her beauty was renowned throughout Italy. Pale skin, dark eyes, a smile that could enchant or unsettle. Yet beneath the surface of charm and grace lay a woman forged by a family for whom ambition justified every means. Lucrezia's life was a study in perception, her actions scrutinized, her loyalties questioned, her every word weighed against the lethal backdrop of her father and brother's machinations. Marriages for Lucrezia were not unions of love, but instruments of strategy. Each alliance extended the Borgia network of influence, cemented political ties, and neutralized threats. Yet it was her presence at the family's banquets that became one of the most subtle and feared tools in their arsenal. Tales circulated that a glance from Lucrezia could unnerve even seasoned diplomats, that her mere proximity lent credence to whispers of poison, and that her actions, whether deliberate or accidental, could seal a rival's fate. Historians debate the extent of her involvement in the family's darker schemes. Some accounts suggest she actively participated, delivering cups of wine or delicacies laced with toxins. Other narratives portray her as a pawn, a young woman compelled by her father Rodrigo and brother Cesare to move through a world of danger she barely controlled. Yet the impact of her reputation was undeniable. To dine in her presence was to encounter the duality of allure and menace, the possibility that she might wield poison, or that others assumed she could, amplified the family's aura of omnipotence. Lucrezia's charm was a weapon as potent as Cesare's calculated poisonings. In the halls of Ferrara, Rome, or Urbino, her smile could disarm suspicion, while her carefully measured gestures reinforced the fear that danger lingered behind every cup. Stories speak of perfumed gloves, delicate goblets, or subtly laced desserts. But whether myth or reality, these tales strengthened the perception of a woman whose elegance masked lethal potential. Fear was contagious, and Lucrezia's presence ensured it spread effortlessly. Yet the most remarkable aspect of Lucrezia's influence was psychological. She did not need to strike directly. Her reputation alone reshaped behavior. Rivals hesitated, allies second-guessed loyalties, and even enemies reconsidered their schemes simply by imagining her involvement. In a society where honor, reputation, and appearances were everything, Lucrezia's subtle power became inseparable from the Borgia's strategy of fear. Her banquets, like Cesare's, were carefully orchestrated performances. Music swelled in the corners of the great halls, candles danced against the walls, and tables groaned under the weight of delicacies. Nobles drank from golden goblets, laughing, toasting, unaware of the invisible currents of danger swirling around them. The elegance of the setting was deliberate. It distracted, lulled, and concealed. Luxury and menace coexisted with deliberate symmetry, a reflection of the Borgia's mastery over perception and reality alike. The consequences of her family's infamous reputation extended beyond individual survival. Political negotiations, city-state alliances, and papal decisions were all influenced by the whispered threat of poison. Lucrezia, knowingly or not, became a living symbol of this power. In a culture dominated by intrigue, where rumors shaped decisions as much as armies, her presence was both a promise and a warning. Legends grew. Chroniclers wrote of nobles trembling at the sight of her, tales of secret cups and deadly smiles weaving into the mythology of the Borgias. The reality may have been less dramatic, some deaths documented, others the product of rumor, but the impact was tangible. Fear, cultivated and sustained, became a tool that required no violence to be effective. Lucrezia understood instinctively that influence could manifest in whispers, gestures, and reputation just as effectively as in poison or sword. Her marriages, too, served as stages of power. Each alliance extended the family's reach, reinforced political dominance, and subtly reminded the Italian nobility that the Borgia's influence was inescapable. Lucrezia's beauty and wit ensured that these unions were not merely ceremonial, but practical instruments of control. In a society where perception equaled power, she became a living emblem of the lethal sophistication her family cultivated. Through her, the Borgias demonstrated that the most effective tools of dominance were not always overt. Fear, reputation, and perception could enforce obedience, shape alliances, and dictate behavior. In a single glance or smile, Lucrezia conveyed the unspoken threat that had made her family legendary. And yet beneath the surface of carefully curated elegance, Lucrezia remained a figure of contradiction, admired and feared, beautiful yet dangerous, celebrated yet constrained. Her role illustrates the human dimension of Borgia power, the intertwining of ambition, coercion, and survival. Each banquet, each alliance, each whispered rumor was a thread in a web she navigated with careful calculation, conscious or compelled. As candles flickered in the great halls, music swelling softly in the background, and goblets shimmered with wine, the invisible danger persisted. The Borgia's mastery over perception ensured that the fear of poison lingered longer than the poison itself. Lucrezia's presence alone reinforced the lesson that power often thrives in the shadows, where elegance and terror intersect. The question remained, as it had for centuries. In a world where a single bite or sip could mean death, who could truly navigate the web of Borgia influence unscathed? And as alliances shifted and whispers of betrayal spread, the stage was set for the next phase of their deadly intrigue, where political ambition and human cunning would collide in even more ruthless ways. The Borgia's mastery of subtle terror extended far beyond the glittering halls of their banquets. Each poisoned goblet, whispered rumor, and carefully orchestrated disappearance became a tool in the larger machinery of power. In Renaissance Italy, where the peninsula was divided into a mosaic of city-states, diplomacy was as treacherous as war, and fear often outweighed force. The Borgias understood this better than any other family. Rodrigo Borgia, Pope Alexander VI, ruled from the papal throne with authority reinforced by the invisible hand of threat. His children, trained in cunning and observation, acted as instruments of that influence. Cesare's lethal elegance and Lucrezia's subtle power were not isolated curiosities. They were integral to a calculated system of dominance. Nobles, diplomats, and rivals alike knew that crossing the Borgias could bring sudden, inexplicable disaster. Fear became currency, a method of controlling entire courts without raising armies. In Florence, Milan, and Venice, the reputation of the Borgias preceded them. Ambassadors reported rumors of sudden illnesses following dinners at papal palaces, of nobles vanishing without explanation, and of whispered threats that left rival families paralyzed. Even distant rulers hesitated before challenging a pope whose family seemed capable of striking anywhere at any time. The power of perception had become indistinguishable from reality. Cesare's campaigns in Romagna illustrate the political efficacy of this approach. While his armies secured territory through military skill, rumor and intimidation worked in tandem to discourage resistance. Nobles surrendered lands or allegiance, not only out of fear of force, but out of apprehension that a misstep at a dinner table or a careless word could be fatal. The threat of poison functioned as an invisible sword, cutting both hearts and alliances. Even within Rome, the shadow of the Borgias shaped behavior. Clergy and courtiers acted with caution, their loyalty enforced by the subtle suggestion of lethal consequence. Letters hint at mysterious illnesses among rivals, sudden departures, and disappearances that never required official explanation. In such an environment, the line between political maneuvering and survival blurred. Diplomacy became a careful dance in which one miscalculated step could be a fatal error. Lucrezia's social position reinforced the effectiveness of this psychological strategy. Her presence at gatherings reminded observers that the family's influence extended into every corner of court life. She embodied both beauty and danger, an enigma whose very reputation was weaponized. With each marriage, she wove alliances that extended Borgia reach while reinforcing the aura of omnipresent power. Allies and enemies alike were compelled to consider not only military strength or wealth, but the subtle unseen forces the Borgias could unleash. Even as fear spread, the Borgias maintained an outward appearance of refinement and piety. Rodrigo, a patron of the arts and devout Catholic, balanced public perception with the cultivation of a private, shadowed network of influence. The contrast heightened the effectiveness of their strategy, a family capable of inspiring awe with culture and ceremony, yet equally capable of eliminating obstacles quietly and efficiently. The elegance of their social life masked the ruthless efficiency of their political methods. The mythos of poisoned banquets and hidden death served as a deterrent long after any single act of poison. Rivals hesitated, alliances were negotiated with caution, and conspiracies were tempered by uncertainty. Fear, carefully cultivated, became the ultimate instrument of power, shaping not only actions but thought itself. The Borgias demonstrated that influence extended beyond visible authority. It thrived in the shadows of suspicion, rumor, and anticipation. Yet this climate of fear had consequences. The very perception that the Borgias could strike invisibly created resentment, conspiracy, and rebellion among other noble houses. Their methods required constant vigilance, for in a world where deception and poison were expected, trust was scarce. Every alliance risked betrayal, every negotiation contained hidden peril, and even family loyalty was tested in the crucible of ambition. The poisoned banquets were more than acts of cruelty. They were demonstrations of strategy, psychological warfare writ across the courtly landscape. By combining spectacle with subtlety, the Borgias redefined power in Renaissance Italy. They wielded fear like a weapon, not only to protect their interests, but to shape the political order itself. And yet, even as fear secured dominance, it left a legacy of suspicion and legend that would outlive them. Centuries later, historians still debate the line between fact and exaggeration, between Cesare's cunning and rumor's embellishment. What is undeniable is the impact. The Borgias turned perception into power, and in doing so, reshaped the politics of Italy, leaving a shadow that stretched far beyond the papal palace into every court, city, and whispered conversation across the peninsula. As candlelight flickered across the walls of Rome and golden goblets reflected uncertain faces, the lesson was clear. In the deadly elegance of the Borgias, survival was measured not merely by strength or army, but by wit, caution, and an unerring awareness of the invisible hand that guided every sip, every word, and every alliance. Centuries have passed since the Borgia name first inspired both awe and dread. The grand halls where candles flickered against marble, where goblets of wine shimmered under gilded light, and where laughter masked hidden threats, are long silent. Yet the legend endures, etched into history as a testament to the deadly intersection of ambition, cunning, and fear. The poisoned banquets of the Borgias are not merely stories of murder. They are enduring symbols of power itself and the ways it can be wielded through perception as much as force. Even in death, Rodrigo, Cesare, Lucrezia, and Juan maintained influence through the myths spun around them. Chroniclers, propagandists, and rivals all contributed to a narrative in which poison and intrigue defined the family. Whether every tale of a cup switched in secret or a dish laced with belladonna is historically accurate may never be known. What is clear is that the belief in these acts shaped behavior, guided alliances, and preserved the aura of omnipotence. The myth became as powerful as any reality, a force that outlived armies, papal decrees, and political victories. Historians have long debated the line between fact and embellishment. Some argue that the Borgias were victims of relentless propaganda, their reputation amplified by envious or fearful contemporaries. Others contend that their ruthlessness, ambition, and mastery of psychological strategy make the legends plausible. Regardless of the precise truth, the effectiveness of the narrative itself cannot be denied. Fear, once planted, became a tool, a form of control that required neither visible violence nor army. Literature, art, and culture have continually revisited the Borgia myth, fascinated by the blend of elegance and terror. From Renaissance chroniclers to modern films and television, the image of a poisoned goblet, delivered with a smile in a candlelit hall, remains a potent symbol of the seductive danger of power. The Borgias exemplify the duality of human ambition, the capacity to inspire admiration through intellect, culture, and beauty, while simultaneously wielding fear and cruelty to ensure dominance. Lucrezia, in particular, occupies a central place in this enduring fascination. Her beauty and intelligence, coupled with her mysterious role in her family's lethal theater, embody the tension between agency and compulsion. Whether actively complicit or merely a symbol amplified by rumor, she represents how perception can be manipulated to create power. A glance, a smile, a whispered story of a poisoned goblet. These became tools as effective as armies or papal decrees. Cesare's legacy, too, is inseparable from the mythology of fear. He elevated strategy to an art form, demonstrating that subtlety, planning, and psychological manipulation could achieve what brute force often could not. By combining military skill with the threat of invisible punishment, he ensured that his influence extended far beyond the battlefield, embedding it into the very fabric of political life. His actions show that mastery of perception can be as decisive as mastery of reality. A lesson as relevant today as it was in Renaissance Italy. The Borgias also teach us about the human fascination with control and danger. Their story captivates because it resonates with universal fears. The unpredictability of power, the vulnerability hidden beneath luxury, and the fine line between survival and destruction. In a single meal, they condense the extremes of ambition, morality, and human cunning. Their banquets were performances, their guests unwitting actors, and the consequences both immediate and symbolic. Even now, the image of a Borgia banquet, golden halls, richly dressed nobles, a flickering candle, a poisoned cup, carries emotional weight. It represents more than historical events. It embodies timeless truths about influence, fear, and human behavior. Power is rarely exercised openly. It thrives in uncertainty, in perception, and in the invisible control of the mind as much as the body. The Borgia's poisoned feasts endure as a cautionary tale, a reminder that wealth and elegance can conceal danger, that beauty and intellect can be weapons, and that history is shaped as much by the stories we tell as by the facts we record. Their legend survives because it illuminates the darkest corners of human ambition, revealing how fear can be wielded as masterfully as any sword, how perception can rival reality, and how a single family, through cunning and ruthlessness, can leave a shadow across centuries. As we reflect on their legacy, we are forced to confront uncomfortable truths about power, that it often thrives in the invisible spaces between action and rumor, between reality and myth, and that survival, influence, and dominance are inseparable from the careful orchestration of perception. The poisoned banquet of a Borgia is more than a historical curiosity. It is an enduring symbol of ambition, subtle terror, and the deadly artistry with which power can be claimed, maintained, and remembered. The halls are silent now, the goblets empty, and the candles extinguished. Yet the shadow of the Borgias persists, a reminder that in the delicate dance of ambition and fear, the most sophisticated threats are often invisible, and the echoes of their influence continue to haunt the pages of history.